Before I start this video, I would like to mention that it is rendered in 21:9. So if you have a 16:9 display, you'll be seeing letterboxes at the top and bottom of the screen, but if you're watching in ultra-wide, it will scale correctly. So, monitors. There are tons of them. Hell, you're most likely using one right now, unless you're on a phone, that is. Now, when people look for a new monitor, the things they usually think about are resolution, refresh rate, size, IPS or TN, etc. But there's one thing that most don't seem to think about: aspect ratio. If you already know how aspect ratios work, skip to the time on your screen right now. Anyways, today the standard aspect ratio is 16:9, commonly called widescreen. Before widescreen was the standard aspect ratio, there was 4:3, which is called full screen. Ratios simply tell you the ratio of pixels going horizontally versus the pixels going vertically. For each aspect ratio, there is a wide spectrum of resolutions that fall in between them, such as the common 1080p or 1920 by 1080, which is in the 16:9 aspect ratio. Other 16:9 ratios are 480p, which is standard definition, 720p and 1080p, which are HD, 1440p, which is 2K, and 2160p, which is 4K. Now, 21:9 ratios all have the same height as 16:9. They are expanded on the left and right ends. For example, the 21:9 variant of 1920 by 1080 is 2560 by 1080. Unlike 16:9, which has a ton of different resolutions, 21:9 only has like two mainstream ones: 3440 by 1440 and 2560 by 1080. So, what are the pros and cons of having an ultra-wide display? When playing video games that support ultra-wide correctly, you will have the advantage of being able to see more of the game world on screen at a time. It fills up most of your peripheral vision, allowing for the gameplay to be much more immersive. Now, most modern games have at least some support for ultra-wide ratios, but it is far from perfect, sadly. Since the standard ratio is 16:9, pretty much every game is made in this ratio first, so the developers need to find a way to scale the game correctly to 21:9. The easiest, best, and most common way, thankfully, is simply leaving it up to the engine. Since modern games render the entire world all at once, and there is just simply a camera placed in a specific location that can be scaled easily to any resolution or aspect ratio. Because of this, 21:9 can be supported quite simply by just expanding the size of the screen. The two ways that an engine can do this is either Hor plus or Vert minus. Now, Hor plus simply adds more space to the left and right side of the screen, and Vert minus, which is simply cutting off the tops and bottom of the screen to make it look like it's 21:9. Truthfully, there is no reason for Vert minus to exist, and that is why most engines don't even use it, because it is garbage and no one likes it. But as always, there is some offenders that don't really seem to care. The main one, which really annoys me, is Unreal Engine. There are some other ways to get to ultra-wide, which aren't as good, but are sometimes needed for things that aren't rendered in 3D, like a 2D screen or HUDs. One of these techniques is stretching the image. Now, this one isn't used that much on gameplay, except like some 2D games, but they can be fixed with programs such as Flawless Widescreen, which you should download if you have an ultra-wide display, just to mention. Now, the things that are stretched a lot of times are HUDs, title screens, and pre-rendered cutscenes. Since a HUD or like a menu are specifically programmed in 16:9, they can't exactly just move to the edges automatically with an engine, so you have to specifically program it in with a few bits of code to make it go to the edges. Most developers seem to forget this, and it is a bit of an eyesore sometimes, but not horrific. The few developers that do actually fix the HUDs correctly are a godsend. Thank you, I love you. And the final way to get to ultra-wide, or actually not getting to ultra-wide, is just having a 16:9 screen with pillar boxing, which is black bars on the sides. This feature is usually used for pre-rendered cutscenes or menus. They aren't too bad because they're usually not in important parts of a game, and there's not much you can do with them anyway other than creating whole new screens for it, so I could forgive people for doing this. Now, HUDs aren't always stretched. Sometimes they are left at 16 by 9, and it looks quite weird because everything's bunched up to the center, but I don't know, it's up to you to say which is more of an eyesore. I kind of prefer the stretched ones because they're at least out of my way, but some prefer just having the HUD in the middle. So gaming in ultrawide is not the best, but when it does work, it is very awesome. But what about the other things that you do on a monitor in your day-to-day life? So most programs, websites, and Windows obviously support ultra-wide, and it is absolutely amazing. Your desktop will have plenty more space, and editing and programs such as Audacity or just a simple text document allow for much more room, and it's great. Movies generally support ultra-wide if they are from the past couple years, but if they don't, programs such as VLC can correct the ratio because most movies are filmed anamorphically, which means it could just scale without distorting the image. Now, for video sharing sites like YouTube, they almost always support 21 by 9, even though it looks like every video is pillar boxed. Now, this is a thing because everyone just uploads in 16 by 9, so it just has pillar boxing because stretching would ruin the video, making it look off. But when someone out there, such as me, uploads a video in ultra wide, it will correctly expand to fit the screen. For example, another channel that does it is this guy called Wide as Fuck. His channel will be in the description because he kind of inspired me to make this video, and he basically just makes videos telling you how games support 21 by 9, so definitely check him out because I've watched a ton of his. So what does it look like when you watch ultrawide content on a normal widescreen or full screen display? Well, basically, ultrawide content will have letterboxing on widescreen, and if you're watching on an old 4x3 screen, it'll just be an even bigger letterbox, which looks like crap. When watching other ratios on an ultrawide display, it does basically the opposite by adding pillar boxing instead of letterboxing. For more examples, just pause the video and investigate the image on your screen right now. It's actually really helpful if you want to know how everything looks. So, even though I stated earlier that most people don't upload in 21 by 9, then how come you end up seeing so much letterboxed footage on YouTube? This is usually just a case of people uploading 16 by 9 footage but adding fake letterboxing in during the editing stage. It's impossible to tell if it's just 21 by 9 or a fake letterboxing on a normal display, but on an ultrawide display, it's very obvious the difference. If you watch a fake letterbox video on ultrawide, it'll be a floating video in the middle of a pillar box and a letterbox at the same time, being absolutely disgusting to look at. Now, there's really no point in adding fake letterboxing because for 6 by 9 displays, you can't tell the difference between normal 21 by 9 and fake letterboxing, but for the few out there like me who have 21 by 9, it looks like garbage, so just upload in 21 by 9 if you want to have the letterbox effect. So in conclusion, should you buy a 21 by 9 monitor? Now, to be honest, this is a really hard question for me to answer because even though things that do support ultrawide looks insane, there are so many cons and some of them are just so prominent, I can't really say go buy one. So my recommendation is to just try and wait a couple of years because every couple of months there's more and more support for ultrawide. I'll only really tell you to go buy an ultrawide display if you actually really think it looks cool and just want to get that nice peripheral vision like I kind of did. Then just go buy one because the more people who have an ultrawide display, the more developers will notice and start to support it. So if you are even a little bit interested, I would recommend it. Just try to look past the flaws. They can only get better from here. Anyways, if you liked this video, please give it a like or subscribe to my channel, because I will continue to upload in 21 by 9 as long as I have one. And see you later.